You live in chains you cannot see, chains forged by the opinions of others. Today we break those chains. We confront the silent enemy that weakens your decisions, clouds your confidence, and steals your destiny, the fear of what people think. In this lesson, inspired by Niccolò Machiavelli, we uncover a truth many fear to admit. Your obsession with pleasing others is the greatest obstacle to your power. We will solve the problem of hesitation, insecurity, and dependence on approval. By the end, you will understand why seeking validation is the fastest path to weakness. Consider for a moment the figure of a man who rises each morning with one question burning heavier than hunger itself. What will they think of me today? Observe how his steps become cautious, how his voice softens, how his decisions bend like an unfortified wall against the slightest pressure. This man is not living, he is performing. And worse, he is performing for an audience that does not care about his well-being, only about how his actions benefit or entertain them. When a person depends on the approval of others, he becomes a slave long before he realizes he has been chained. In the eyes of Machiavelli, nothing is more dangerous to power, whether political, personal, or psychological, than allowing your sense of self to be dictated by the collective mood of the masses. To seek their approval is to hand them control, and the crowd, being fickle, will twist that control in whichever direction suits their whims. A ruler who cannot act without applause is no ruler at all. He is merely the echo of public desire, a puppet dressed in velvet mistaken for a king. Let us examine how this erosion of power begins, because it never announces itself with a trumpet. It grows quietly, like a weed climbing the walls of a once strong fortress. It begins with one small compromise, changing your words so they sound sweeter to another. Then comes the adjustment of your actions so they are easier for others to digest. Soon, you no longer speak with your own voice, nor walk with your own pace. You have become an actor in a play written by the expectations of others, and the applause you chase becomes the only proof you exist. Notice how such a man moves through life. Every choice he makes is weighed not on the scale of reason or strategy, but on the fragile balance of popularity. If he imagines disapproval, he hesitates. If he fears criticism, he withdraws. If he hears even a whisper of judgment, he modifies his behavior. This is not caution. This is not diplomacy. This is surrender disguised as politeness. And Machiavelli teaches us that surrender, even subtle, invisible surrender, inevitably becomes habit. A person who depends on approval becomes predictable. This predictability is fatal, for anyone who can anticipate your actions can also influence them. If you fear being disliked, your enemies need not overpower you, they need only express disapproval. If you crave praise, they need not offer meaningful rewards. A flattering word will steer you exactly where they want. You become manipulable not through force, but through your own neediness. Others learn that your identity is not anchored, and so they tug at it like a loose thread, unraveling you at will. This dependence also weakens you internally, for when you place your worth in the hands of others, you abandon the work required to strengthen your mind. Instead of cultivating discipline, you cultivate likability. Instead of fostering conviction, you foster conformity. Instead of sharpening ambition, you soften yourself to fit the mold others find comfortable. You trade the power of being formidable for the weakness of being agreeable. And in the pursuit of pleasing everyone, you become forgettable to all. Machiavelli would warn, the crowd is an unstable ruler. Their loyalty shifts not with reason but with emotion. They cheer one day and condemn the next. They celebrate your rise but scrutinize your every step. If you bind your confidence to their applause, your spirit will rise and fall like a boat in a storm. A prince, or any person desiring influence, must be able to stand firm even when the winds howl against him. If the sound of disapproval shakes your confidence, then your confidence never existed in the first place. There is another truth. The more you seek approval, the less respect you receive. People sense desperation like wolves sense the tremble in wounded prey. They see the way your eyes search their faces for validation. They detect the hesitation in your voice. They notice the way you adjust your decisions to avoid conflict. And instead of rewarding you with respect, they quietly lose it. They may smile at you, but they do not follow you. They may praise you, but they do not trust you. For in their minds, a person who depends on approval cannot be relied upon when the path grows dark. In contrast, those who stand firm in their convictions, even when unpopular, command a different kind of reaction. People may disagree with them, they may whisper behind their backs, but they recognize strength when they see it, and strength earns a gravity that approval-seeking never will. A person who acts from inner authority creates a presence that cannot be ignored. He becomes someone whose decisions carry weight, whose silence carries meaning, and whose footsteps leave an impression long after he is gone. Dependence on others' approval weakens power because it transforms a person's identity from something solid to something fluid. A ruler must be like stone, shaped by his own hand, firm in his purpose, unmoved by the shifting winds of public opinion. But the approval seeker is like water poured into any container. He takes the shape others decide for him. And those who allow others to shape them will one day look into the mirror and no longer recognize the face staring back. A person who lives by approval dies by its absence. Observe the man who trembles before the gaze of others, his every move measured, every word weighed, not by reason, but by the invisible scale of judgment. Fear of judgment is a poison disguised as prudence. It creeps into the mind, whispering caution at every turn, and convinces a man that hesitation is wisdom. Yet Machiavelli would tell us, hesitation born of fear is the surest path to failure. Boldness, not timidity, secures power, for the world rewards action more than reflection, and decisiveness more than approval. Consider how this fear manifests. The ambitious man sees an opportunity, a chance to achieve greatness, yet he pauses. He pauses because he wonders what others might say if he fails. He pauses because he imagines ridicule, skepticism, or disapproval. Every grand strategy, every potentially transformative decision is put on hold while he seeks the imaginary verdict of an audience that has no stake in his destiny. This is not caution, this is paralysis. The world moves forward, opportunities vanish, and yet he remains trapped, shackled by his own imagination of judgment. History is littered with such men, capable, intelligent, even talented, who fell short because they feared what others would think. They calculated too long, hesitated too much, and in their timidity, the bold seized what could have been theirs. Machiavelli reminds us that fortune favors the audacious. Hesitation is a luxury for those with no desire for influence, no ambition to shape events, no hunger to command outcomes. Fear of judgment is the invisible enemy that convinces you that inaction is safer than action, when in reality it is fatal. The mechanism is subtle yet all-consuming. Fear of judgment reshapes priorities. Instead of asking what action will yield the greatest result, the mind asks, will they approve? Instead of weighing consequences, the mind weighs perception. Instead of seeking mastery, it seeks comfort. Every choice becomes a compromise between ambition and the desire for acceptance. This compromise is lethal. A decision made to satisfy perception is rarely strategic, rarely bold, rarely transformative. It is a decision made to pacify, and pacification never builds empires. Observe also the effect on alliances and loyalty. The man who fears judgment becomes predictable. He hesitates when decisive action is needed, allowing rivals to exploit his indecision. He avoids confrontation, fearing criticism, and in so doing cedes ground to those willing to act. His fear broadcasts weakness. Allies see indecision as unreliability. Enemies see opportunity. In the theater of power, fear of judgment is a visible scar that invites exploitation. No fortress is weaker than one whose leader trembles at whispers. Machiavelli emphasizes that perception of courage is often as important as courage itself. To hesitate, to second-guess, to measure every action against the imagined opinions of others is to forfeit this perception entirely. Bold action commands attention, establishes authority, and secures respect, even in the face of dissent. Hesitation, born from fear, communicates uncertainty and invites challenge. The man who fears judgment cannot project strength, and without the projection of strength, influence evaporates like mist before the morning sun. There is also a psychological dimension. When a person lives under the constant specter of judgment, Their mind becomes preoccupied with fear rather than strategy. Time that could be spent calculating risks, assessing outcomes, and preparing contingency plans is instead consumed by imagining the reactions of others. This is mental theft. Every imagined criticism, every hypothetical insult, drains energy and focus, leaving the individual less capable of responding to real challenges. The world does not wait for you to feel confident. It rewards the prepared and the bold. Fear of judgment steals preparation and replaces it with distraction. The audacious mind, by contrast, acts decisively, guided by analysis and principle, not by imagined opinion. It calculates risk, but does not cower before the possibility of disapproval. It understands that judgment is ephemeral, but consequences are permanent. The bold accept that criticism is inevitable, yet refuse to let it dictate strategy. They understand that hesitation out of fear of judgment is an invitation for others to dictate their path, to shape their destiny, and to seize opportunities that were meant for them. Notice also the irony. Those who fear judgment often imagine themselves the most visible, when in reality, the world is rarely focused on them as they believe. Yet their fear is all-consuming. It dictates speech, colors action, and limits the imagination. They become prisoners of their own projection of public opinion. Meanwhile, the bold act without waiting for validation. Their actions ripple across the world, creating effects they could not have imagined, while the fearful remain inert, their potential squandered, their influence minimal, their legacy negligible. Fear of judgment not only prevents action, but distorts perception. The man preoccupied with opinion overestimates the importance of minor criticism and underestimates the power of decisive acts. He believes that avoiding criticism preserves his power, when in fact it diminishes it. True influence requires the willingness to risk disapproval, to act in the face of doubt, to make enemies as well as allies. Hesitation, even for the sake of praise, ensures that your mark on the world is faint, easily erased, and ultimately irrelevant. The cost of inaction, Machiavelli teaches, is far greater than the cost of failure. The world rewards those who move, who act, who seize the initiative, regardless of the whispers of judgment. Fear of judgment is the mind's most cunning trap. It masquerades as prudence while it steals ambition. Those who act boldly, who move decisively, may face criticism, but they also command attention, respect, and opportunity. The hesitant, shackled by imagined opinion, achieve neither recognition nor results, becoming instead footnotes in the histories written by those courageous enough to act. Consider the man whose every action is weighed against the judgment of others, whose every decision is calculated not for effectiveness, but for appearances. This man, obsessed with reputation, is blind to a fundamental principle. Power is secured not by being liked, but by achieving results. Niccolò Machiavelli, ever the strategist, understood that the world rewards outcomes far more than perception. A ruler, or indeed any individual striving for influence, must value what he accomplishes above what he is thought to be accomplishing. To place reputation above reality is to construct a palace on sand, beautiful to behold yet doomed to collapse under the first test of strength. Reputation is a fragile currency, constantly subject to the whims of the masses. Today, the crowd may cheer your name. Tomorrow, they may whisper suspicion. One moment, praise elevates you. The next, disapproval diminishes you. Those who measure their worth by this fickle standard are perpetually exposed to forces they cannot control. Results, by contrast, are tangible, measurable, and undeniable. A fortress built, a territory conquered, a strategy executed. These are impervious to gossip, immune to envy, and permanent in consequence. The wise understand that true power is the accumulation of these concrete victories, not the hollow approval of those who neither understand nor participate in the struggle. Let us consider the psychology of reputation versus results. The man obsessed with how he is perceived spends his energy projecting an image rather than achieving substance. He arranges his words to charm rather than to convince, He stages his actions to please rather than to succeed, and he chooses alliances for popularity rather than strategy. Every moment spent polishing reputation is a moment stolen from action, from the very work that could produce real influence. In the pursuit of applause, he sacrifices the substance that earns genuine respect. Machiavelli would remind us that the world does not reward actors on a stage, it rewards those who move the pieces on the board of life. There is also a subtle danger. Obsession with reputation makes one predictable. If you consistently act to preserve your image, others learn the rules by which you operate. They know which battles you will fight, which risks you will avoid, and which compromises you will accept. Your predictability becomes a weakness, and in the theater of power, weakness is an invitation. Those who value results over reputation, by contrast, act according to strategy, not expectation. Their actions are guided by necessity, not admiration. They seize opportunities without concern for applause, and it is this unpredictability, combined with effectiveness, that commands respect and fear alike. Consider the leaders history remembers. Few are celebrated primarily for being liked, nearly all are remembered for what they accomplished. Alexander the Great was not adored because he pleased every courtier or citizen. He was feared and respected because he conquered kingdoms. Caesar did not win the hearts of all Romans, but he secured power through decisive action and tangible victories. Machiavelli would argue that the cautious ruler, overly concerned with reputation, often dies powerless because he waited too long to act, striving for universal approval that will never exist. Results, not perception, are the currency of authority. The obsession with reputation also distorts decision-making. A ruler who fears disapproval may avoid necessary reforms, punishments, or risks because they could provoke resentment or misunderstanding. Policies are watered down to avoid criticism. Alliances are formed not for strategic value but for public perception. Conflicts are avoided not because they lack merit, but because they might appear controversial. In doing so, the ruler loses the very opportunities that could strengthen his position. Machiavelli warns that a leader who values reputation over results is like a sailor who watches the horizon for approval while the storm wrecks his ship. Furthermore, reputation is a fragile shield against time. Public opinion shifts like sand beneath the feet. One scandal, one rumor, one misinterpretation, and the carefully curated image can crumble. Results, however, endure. They leave monuments, victories, laws, and legacies that cannot be easily erased. To value reputation above results is to gamble with your destiny on a fickle dice, leaving your life's work at the mercy of those who neither toil nor sacrifice. Machiavelli emphasizes that the wise understand permanence versus appearance. One builds foundations, not facades. Those who value results over reputation also inspire loyalty differently. Allies respect competence more than charm, courage more than courtesy. Subordinates follow a leader who achieves, even if he is harsh, far more readily than one who pleases superficially. Fear of judgment may make one likable, but it rarely makes one respected or obeyed. Influence is earned through deeds, through the proof of effectiveness, through the consequences of action. A reputation without results is like a crown made of glass. It dazzles briefly, but shatters the moment it is tested. Machiavelli's insight is clear. To cling to reputation is to place the cart before the horse. One must first secure results, establish power, and ensure survival. Only then can reputation be a tool, a reflection of achievement rather than a constraint. To invert this order is folly. When the desire to appear virtuous, wise, or strong dominates, decisions are compromised, opportunities missed, and the path to power obstructed. Results are objective, reputation is subjective. Power favors the former, not the latter. Reputation can be used as a weapon once results are secured, but it must never guide action at the expense of achievement. A leader obsessed with image alone is always at the mercy of the court, the crowd, and circumstance. A leader guided by results commands respect, secures loyalty, and dictates outcomes. The pursuit of approval is a trap. The pursuit of results is the path to authority. The two may align occasionally, but only results guarantee influence that is enduring, formidable, and unmistakable. Consider the man who strives to be admired by all. He wishes that every eye upon him approves, that every tongue whispers praise. On the surface, this appears noble, an ambition for respect, for acceptance, for harmony. Yet beneath this desire lies a dangerous vulnerability. In seeking universal praise, one exposes oneself to manipulation, becoming a puppet to the desires, expectations, and whims of others. Niccolò Machiavelli, ever the student of human nature, would warn that no man, no matter how skilled, can secure universal approval, and the attempt itself is the surest path to subjugation. The mind that seeks universal praise is constantly scanning the environment, searching for signals of approval and disapproval. It measures words, calculates gestures, and tempers action not for effectiveness but for acceptance. Every move is filtered through the lens of perception, and in this the individual surrenders autonomy. Others recognize this dependence and exploit it. The craving for praise becomes a lever by which the perceptive can control decisions, manipulate behavior, and shape outcomes. The man who desires to please all is no longer acting from conviction or strategy, he is acting from the needs of others. Observe how easily manipulation takes root. A courtier, a colleague, or a competitor identifies the approval seeker and learns which strings to pull. A word of criticism here, a subtle question there, and the man shifts his stance, bends his opinion, or alters his action to maintain the illusion of universal favor. His judgment, which should be his strongest weapon, is rendered secondary to the fear of displeasing someone. Each person who recognizes this weakness gains influence not through merit, but through the knowledge that they can dictate the course of another's mind. The desire to be liked has transformed the once independent individual into a tool in the hands of others. Machiavelli understood that those who govern, lead, or aspire to influence must remain unshakable by the tides of public opinion. A ruler who attempts to please all becomes ineffective because he constantly compromises, dilutes, and vacillates. He can neither act decisively nor enforce authority. He fears confrontation, avoids necessary action, and refrains from decisions that might incur criticism, even when those decisions are essential for survival or success. His desire for universal praise binds him in chains that only the clever of his court or the cunning of his rivals can exploit. This dependence on praise also erodes authenticity. The individual who constantly seeks approval no longer acts according to principle, but according to expectation. His actions are curated performances designed to elicit applause rather than achieve results. Authenticity, the foundation of true influence, is replaced by an illusion. And illusions, while momentarily powerful, crumble under scrutiny. Those who rely on applause rather than conviction find themselves surrounded by sycophants who mirror their desires, not their reality. Their circle becomes a reflection of fear, not strategy. Furthermore, the desire for universal praise blinds one to danger. A man preoccupied with the reactions of others cannot perceive threats clearly. He overestimates friendly faces, misjudges enemies, and underestimates the cost of indecision. Manipulators exploit this blindness. They present advice, guidance, or warnings not to serve the individual, but to steer him in the direction of their own advantage. Because the praise seeker fears disapproval, he follows their direction, thinking it aligns with virtue or popularity, when in truth he is being maneuvered like a piece on a chessboard. History offers many examples of leaders who fell because they sought universal approval. They surrounded themselves with advisors who flattered rather than informed, allies who praised rather than challenged, and populations who demanded charm over competence. In doing so, they ceded power not to force, not to strategy, but to the subtle art of manipulation. Machiavelli's lessons are clear. The desire to be liked universally is an invitation for cunning men to take control of your destiny. Those who desire influence must resist this temptation, acting instead with calculated independence. The irony is profound. In seeking praise, the individual often undermines his ability to achieve it. People respect decisiveness, courage, and the willingness to act in accordance with principle. They do not respect endless accommodation. The attempt to please all, to secure constant affirmation, signals weakness, uncertainty, and dependency. Manipulators sense this immediately. They understand that the approval seeker will bend, compromise, and acquiesce to maintain favor. In this knowledge lies their power. Machiavelli would counsel that one must act according to necessity, not applause. Strategic action may incur criticism, provoke resentment, or spark envy, but it also demonstrates strength. It reveals decisiveness, vision, and authority. Those who act solely to please become trapped in a perpetual performance, while those who act according to principle, reason, and necessity command genuine respect. To be manipulated is to have ceded authority before the battle begins. To act independently is to seize the battlefield with clarity and resolve. The pursuit of universal praise also distracts from reality. The approval seeker prioritizes perception over substance. He spends energy managing appearances rather than cultivating influence. He worries about how decisions will be interpreted, rather than focusing on the outcomes those decisions will produce. In this, he relinquishes control. Manipulators, recognizing this misalignment between perception and reality, exploit it. They provide advice designed to maintain appearances while advancing their own agendas, knowing the praise seeker will follow blindly. The lesson is unavoidable. The craving for universal praise is a trap. It is a silent chain, invisible yet binding, that allows others to dictate your actions. Independence, clarity of purpose, and decisive action are the antidotes. To act boldly, guided by reason rather than desire for approval, is to reclaim authority over one's own life. Those who do so are less easily manipulated, less susceptible to exploitation, and more capable of achieving enduring influence and power. Consider the man who stands alone, unwavering, while the crowd clamors around him. He does not seek their approval. He does not bend to their judgment. He does not temper his actions to soothe their fleeting moods. His strength is not measured by applause or affirmation, but by the certainty of his own conviction. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that true power is not granted by the many, it is forged within, through reason, foresight, and unshakable will. To rely on the approval of others is to hand over the foundation of your strength, while to cultivate inner conviction is to wield authority that no whisper of public opinion can erode. Inner conviction is not arrogance, it is clarity of purpose. It is the result of understanding one's goals, assessing the world with dispassionate vision, and acting decisively in accordance with that understanding. A man guided by conviction does not falter when faced with criticism, nor does he sway with the tides of popularity. His decisions are anchored in reality, not perception. In the theater of human affairs, those who act with inner conviction project a power that is unmistakable. Their authority is evident, not because it pleases the many, but because it compels respect through its very certainty. Public opinion is a fickle master. One day, it lauds your wisdom. The next, it castigates your prudence. The man who depends on its favor is a prisoner, constantly adjusting, hesitating, and fearing reprisal. He is at the mercy of those who are loudest, most persuasive, or most numerous. Machiavelli observed that the crowd is inherently unreliable. It is swayed by emotion, deception, and transient passions. To place your strength in its hands is to surrender to instability. A leader who depends on approval cannot act boldly. A ruler who fears judgment cannot secure power. A person who values applause over conviction cannot endure in the world of men. Inner conviction, by contrast, provides stability. It allows one to act decisively even when the world disapproves. It permits the pursuit of long-term strategy, while others panic over immediate perception. It ensures that actions are guided by principle, not by the shifting winds of favor. A man with conviction does not need to justify his choices to every observer. He does not alter his course to satisfy critics. He does not seek the validation of those who are indifferent to his purpose. This independence is the hallmark of true power. It frees the individual from manipulation, distraction, and indecision. Notice also the psychological advantage of inner conviction. The mind of one guided by his own reason is focused, disciplined, and resilient. He is not torn between competing desires to appease or to act. He does not expend energy imagining the judgment of others. Instead, he channels his energy toward understanding, planning, and executing. In this way, inner conviction is both a shield and a weapon, a shield against the corrosive influence of public opinion, and a weapon that allows the individual to act with clarity, authority, and effectiveness. History provides countless examples of those who achieved greatness because they valued inner conviction above the judgment of others. Consider the generals who marched into unknown lands despite ridicule, the rulers who enacted reforms despite opposition, and the innovators who pursued bold visions despite derision. Their strength was not in popularity, it was in the certainty of their purpose. Those who bend to opinion may survive temporarily, but those who act from conviction endure, shape history, and leave legacies that cannot be erased by gossip, criticism, or disfavor. The cultivation of inner conviction requires courage. It demands that one face criticism without flinching, that one act decisively despite doubt, and that one trust judgment over applause. The unconvicted mind fears misstep, second-guesses intention, and succumbs to hesitation. The convicted mind acts with measured decisiveness, aware that every decision carries risk, but anchored in principle. Machiavelli teaches that fear of error is less dangerous than dependence on the approval of others, for error can be corrected, while dependency destroys autonomy. Inner conviction also engenders authentic influence. People follow those who are unwavering because consistency signals competence. Those who bend to every whisper, who hesitate at every murmur, inspire neither trust nor loyalty. But the one who acts from conviction, who stands firm despite criticism, commands attention. Even if not universally admired, he is universally respected. Strength derived from inner conviction does not need validation. It asserts itself in deeds, decisions, and outcomes. Another key advantage lies in resilience. Public opinion is fickle, but inner conviction is a source of enduring fortitude. When faced with adversity, the man guided by conviction does not collapse under the weight of censure or doubt. He understands the temporary nature of perception and focuses instead on lasting results. Challenges are met with reasoned action, not fear of criticism. Opposition is a test, not a deterrent. Inner conviction transforms obstacles into opportunities, turning resistance into a measure of strength rather than a source of weakness. Machiavelli understood that those who build power upon the foundation of conviction are less vulnerable to manipulation. Approval seekers are easily swayed because their decisions depend on the moods of others. The convicted mind, however, is not easily influenced. It evaluates counsel, measures advice, and acts independently of flattery or fear. Manipulators may attempt to interfere, but they are thwarted by the unwavering clarity of purpose. In this way, inner conviction protects autonomy, secures authority, and preserves the freedom to act boldly. Finally, true strength born from inner conviction is cumulative. Every decision made with reason, every risk taken with purpose, every action executed without regard for praise, builds confidence, skill, and authority. Each success reinforces certainty, while each failure teaches resilience. Over time, this forms a self-reinforcing cycle. The stronger the conviction, the bolder the action, the bolder the action, the greater the results, the greater the results, the more unshakable the conviction. Public opinion, transient and unreliable, can neither replicate nor substitute for this enduring power. We have journeyed through the subtle chains that bind those who seek approval, through the hesitation born of fear, the compromises made for reputation, the manipulations that prey on praise, and finally to the unshakable strength of inner conviction. The lesson is clear. To live for the judgment of others is to surrender your power, your freedom, and your destiny. Those who act to please the crowd will always be led, manipulated, and constrained. Those who act decisively, guided by reason and purpose, carve their own path, shape their own future, and command respect that no whisper of opinion can diminish. In a world that constantly whispers disapproval, the greatest victory is the courage to act without seeking validation. The true measure of influence, authority, and mastery lies not in the fleeting applause of the many, but in the unyielding resolve of the one who trusts his own judgment. To abandon the fear of judgment, to value results over reputation, to resist manipulation, and to cultivate inner conviction is to claim the power that the timid will never know. The chains of opinion are invisible, but their grip is real. Break them, stand firm, act boldly. Let your life be shaped not by the fleeting thoughts of others, but by the clarity of your purpose, the decisiveness of your actions, and the strength of your convictions. In doing so, you step into the realm of true power, the domain that history remembers and the path that Machiavelli himself would have admired.